This week on FX Guide TV.
We have our first Oscar special for 2013 as we look back at the Avengers with ILM. And we're also proud to show the new lineup of courses available at fxphd.com.
This and more coming up next.
This episode of FX Guide TV is brought to you by the new term at fxphd.com. The January 2013 term is now open with a great new lineup of courses and an amazing set of professors teaching them. Check it out at fxphd.com and take your career to the next level.
Happy New Year and welcome to FX Guide TV for 2013. 5.5 years, 164 shows, and we are as keen as ever to bring you the best technical HD podcast about film, TV and camera tech. And at the end of this episode, I have a little prezi for you. As we go to where the Bake Off is about to start in LA for the 2013 Oscars, and we have the first of our own Oscar specials looking at the work of ILM on Joss Whedon's The Avengers. Mike sat down with Jeff White, VFX Supervisor, and Marc, Animation Supervisor at ILM, on the Presidio in San Fran to look back at one of the most important VFX films of the past year.
I still believe in heroes.
So thanks so much for joining us, we really appreciate it. I'm dead keen to find out about the process, and there's so many aspects we could talk about and so much amazing work you did, but can I just start on one, which is look dev? Because one of the things I was really keen to understand is how quickly you got there, given there was so much work to be done. And a lot of these characters are so context sensitive, like the green of a character is so environmentally affected. Can you just talk about how you developed the look dev, knowing that it was going to be in a range of environments?
Well, luckily we started with some great look dev TDs that it was such a complex process in terms of where do we paint the maps and what value ranges do those live in so that we get consistent results in all the different environments, because each of our characters, Iron Man, the Hulk, they were going to have to react to being on the New York Viaduct, being in the belly of the helicarrier, and then out in the sky. And ideally want to balance it so that it works for all those. I think with Iron Man particularly, we had not only 2 movies worth of experience and knowledge, but the prop that Legacy had built, where Yannick was on set. He was able to photograph it in a variety of environments, and we really utilized that a lot in terms of, it was amazing how much it would change between the different environments.
But is it unrealistic to get something that works in all environments?
That's always our goal, and so, what we're aiming for is it should fit in the environment, and then we go in and sort of beauty light to the shot to make it what we want. But it ends up,
do you beauty shade to the environment? See, you're saying beauty light, right? But I'm just wondering, does that one material survive all setups?
No, we started off with probably 4 Iron Man pull downs, up in the sky, down on the viaduct. But as we worked and iterated, we tried to migrate those, pick the best settings of each. In the end, there's definitely shader tweaks depending on what environment we're in, so that visually it stays consistent, even, we're sort of accommodating for the environment changing. And I think that's especially true with Hulk, where his green was so sensitive to the different environments that he was in. And we spent the first part, we got kind of a nice look in actually the look dev environment. But then as soon as we started dropping him into shots, he went very minty or very pumpkin-y orange, and so we kind of had a language around green. So
does he prefer a color temperature?
There's kind of a Hulk green that we landed at, that once we found a few shots, in the end we got as close as we could in rendering, and then color correction to get the rest of the way.
Look, maybe it's my perception, but there seemed to be an almost diffused dustiness to his greenness, which wouldn't be something I would immediately guess, because normally with people you're trying to get that sort of physicality, the sweat and kind of. Yeah. But he had this thing that on top of the subsurface scattering. Is that? Am I?
Yeah. No, you're right. There's a progression over the sequence as he, especially once he catches Iron Man, he's kind of tearing down the buildings. That's maximum dustiness, but Joss really wanted to start, right after he transforms, he's fairly clean and then gets progressively dirtier. And that was actually a very difficult work to look out, to work out. What we ended up doing there was actually looking at the plates that they shot of Marc Ruffalo, where he crashes down, he lands over in New Jersey actually, and he has a small scene there where he has no clothes on. And those plates ended up being great reference of what should skin look like with a light dusting, on top of them.
Clearly, in cases like that where the actor can't possibly do a performance capture, or he's on the side of a building leaping from other things, you're not going to get Marc being thrown around off buildings. So there is a huge contribution from the animators to get that. Can you talk a bit about like that struggle to get Hulk to leap up in a single bound and do stuff when, of course, we would like to have a character normally move kind of slowly if he's big and bulky?
It's such a tough balance, and I think one of the things that helped us with Hulk especially is we would have kind of a separate meeting, just specifically to look at Hulk shots and kind of get everybody in the room involved, because making Hulk work really is every step in the pipeline, from animation, getting the kind of right balance of speed and physicality, but still keeping it on the edge of what you could believe he could really do. And then, just the poses, and then that gets passed along to the creature group and the model group, and they're going through and running the simulations. And if the animation's too far past physical, all our flesh simulations and muscle aren't going to work. It's just too much velocity there. And then the modeler's going through, frame by frame, and really like figuring out, okay, when he's flexing, when he's hanging on the building here, like what muscles are firing, what should those shapes look like? So it really became a huge team collaboration in terms of actually pulling off that kind of high speed, jumping. And I think, in the end, it's probably faster. I mean, we roughly calculated his weight to be somewhere between 1,200 and 1,600 pounds. And, a guy that heavy probably wouldn't move that fast out of the box, but you got to find the right balance for it being an entertaining shot.
When Marc and Joss came here before filming started, we had him put on the suit, and we started to see how Marc would move within the Hulk's skin. We did the session where he could see himself live as the Hulk. So from that, we really saw, moving a little bit more animalistic was really where, we were taking these things. We wanted to feel like the Hulk was this uncontrollable beast. So we looked at a lot of footage like, apes and we really tried to kind of make it a little bit, make it more instinctual, make it not feel like the Hulk was planning anything per se.
Yeah, it's a difficult problem, isn't it, when you get somebody even on wire rigs, they don't tend to use their gravity off their legs, so they tend to have that thing where, you just doesn't feel right when you translate through. And I guess for some sections you must have used just as reference and had to actually do keyframe animation to achieve the results.
Yeah, for the movie you did use, obviously we had Marc, which was great for not only his facial performance and reference, and when he was land-based, but when he has to jump up to the buildings and smash aliens and then leap into the sky and destroy chariots, there's a fair amount of keyframe animation, and that's sort of the love of any animator. I mean, working with mocap is a great tool. Of course, all chains are untied when you have the ability to keyframe the Hulk, and certainly you can't get a better creature than the Hulk to animate. The one thing that we developed for this movie was optical capture for Marc's performance on set. So what that allows us to do is uninhibit the actor from doing a performance if he has a helmet on with cameras. It's similar to our iMocap system, in which we have, instead of the suit where we're capturing that optically, we devise a system to, mask his face up, dot his face up, and then able to extract that from multiple witness cameras. And then build his performance in 3D, and then map that onto the Hulk. So what we're doing is capturing Mark Ruffalo's performance on a 3D Mark Ruffalo, and then meshing that and mirroring that onto the Hulk. And then from there, animators kind of massage that to fit the Hulk's proportions.
So let's move to, say, Iron Man. And while there's a lot of flexibility in how you might produce a character doing anything, in fact, the character themselves come with their own set of rules, don't they? I mean, when Iron Man's flying, he's very symmetrical. When he's standing, he's almost never symmetrical.
You know, we worked on Iron Man 1 and 2, so we were pretty comfortable with where, you know, what he does and where he comes from and his motivation and how he flies. And then Joss kind of turned that all around. So it was something that we want to see, a fresh new Iron Man with the Mark 7. So once he goes from the Mark 6, which is based on how we've seen him in the first 2 movies, Joss really wanted to achieve some new comic book poses, some stronger poses while he's flying and fighting, and that meant we needed to free up his hands. So Joss came up with this backpack thruster, which allows him to hover and not use his hands for hovering or flying as much. So with that, we were able to get some of those iconic comic book poses.
Do you have to change any of your plate photography because you wanted to get this great pose, and of course we're all concerned about the characters and not what's behind them?
Well, sometimes we have restrictions. Sometimes we have a plate where we're working with a live-action character. In this movie, and more of the responsibility I find of the animators is that we're devising tweak cams or little adjustments. This movie was definitely a little liberating in terms of that because we had a virtual New York to play with. So if something didn't quite work from what we thought would be the camera angle, we could kick it back to layout, we could choose a new location, we can do even a little bit of an adjustment in animation to get what Joss was looking for. So it was nice to have that playground to work in where we weren't restricted.
So it wasn't just these characters we've spoken about so far. You had to presumably body double digitally almost every character. You talk about some of the challenges of producing digital versions of characters that were perhaps less clad in iron and more needed to look sort of photoreal?
Well, the actors were great in terms of creating digital doubles for them. We almost did the same level as what we did for Mark for the Hulk. I mean, a simpler version. We didn't take pictures of their teeth or their fingernails or anything like that, but we did a MOVA session for each digital double. And that meant you know, capturing their facial expressions, their range of motion with their face, so that we can replicate them faithfully as their digital doubles. In some cases, we knew what they would need to do, like Loki being thrashed by the Hulk in Stark's apartment. So, in that case, I would get behind Tom and shake him violently to get that faithful expression that he would have if he was being thrashed by the Hulk. So what you're seeing is actually him.
So someone like Loki, how close did the digital doubles have to play to camera? Because in the kind of ragdoll sequence, obviously we don't see a lot of close-up face stuff. Great sequence, but how close did the digital doubles have to get to camera?
In some cases, we're cutting directly to them. So when Thor's landing onto the viaduct and he kills a couple aliens and he lands, that's going from the digital double to Thor landing in the live-action plate. So quite often we're dealing with having to substitute or swap, you know, fairly tight, not a good medium shot, but probably a full body shot. So it's, you know, we had to make them look as good as possible. I mean, they're probably the best looking digital doubles we've done for a movie, I think, in terms of capturing them.
So we talked earlier about getting the physics right.
Yeah.
Leviathans come through and they are massive, but now they're floating. I mean, they don't have sort of normal gravity. They've obviously got some kind of alien technology. Yeah. Hulk interacts with them at one point by basically stopping one face first.
Those were the Leviathans, the big transport creatures. They were a struggle. They were, how could we make these guys feel massive in the city? I mean, we have wide shots where they're flying through the city. And we found that if you showed all of them entirely, you kind of lost the scale of how big they are. So, you know, to bring back that size and scale, we found that we needed to always have them crowd the frame. We added little transports with them, little chariots and aliens, just to give you a sense of scale and show you how big these guys are. When the Hulk hits them, that was another thing where it was, we really needed to feel the weight and the velocity of them, and how to sell that. And that was, for that shot where he punches him, that was really getting the sense of, and this is Joss really going for that moment. That was a special moment for him. We wanted to see that impact, and then the result of that hit.
Did you approach it from a Sims point of view though? Did you sort of like rig it in terms of simulation for inertia and stuff, or was it just an animator just really nailing it?
It was just, we worked it out in animation first, and then unfortunately for the Sim people, they'll have to figure it out later afterward. But it was just trying to get the timing and the beats to read properly first, and then the Sims would just follow whatever we would do from there.
So, so what was the actual just tool set that the team is using? It's your in-house set, right, for the character animation?
So for animation, we use Maya for our main package, and then within Maya we have our own programs that we've written for facial shapes and rigs and other things that we do day to day. But it's sort of a combination. It's we have our own packages within Maya that we use to get things back and forth, and then obviously Xeno kind of ties everything together on the rendering side. It takes our animation, it takes simulations, and it does the lighting and rendering.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
Congrats to ILM and the other companies that worked on Avengers, including Wet Art, Scanline, Hydraulics, Fuel, Evil Eye Pictures, Luma, Cantina Creative, Trixer, Modus FX, Whiskey Tree, DD, the New Deal Studios, and The Third Floor. If the world has any justice, this film will have to be nominated. But we'll see on the morning of the 10th when the nominations are announced and posted on fxguide.com. Well, if you want to work at one of those facilities, or if you want to make your own productions, FX PhD is the perfect place to take your career to the next level. Join thousands of artists from around the world who have benefited from the structured, high-level training FX PhD has to offer. So here's the new term rundown.
Hi, and welcome to the January 2013 Orientation Week video. I'm John Montgomery, one of the co-founders of FX PhD. We'll be hearing from Mike in just a bit, but I'm here in Tokyo for the launch of NUKE 7. Big news at the end of last year, and of course we have a new offering related to that this term. We've got a fantastic lineup of new courses and returning favorites you'll be hearing about as part of this Orientation Week video. What I want to do is kick it off with a new course being taught by VES and Emmy Award-winning artist Eran Denur, who's teaching a new matte painting digital environments course. As part of that, I'm really excited to say that we've got a new bonus offering on the VPN this term, and that's SpeedTree that you can use to follow along with the course. But let's go ahead and hear more from Eran, what he's got planned for this course dealing with environments and plant life.
Hi, this is Eran Denur, and I'm going to talk a little about this new course, 3D Plants and Digital Environments. This course will cover the entire process of creating realistic 3D vegetation, from the modeling stage all the way to compositing. We'll be working a lot with SpeedTree, which is the industry's leading application for plant modeling. And we'll start with the basic concepts and workflow of procedural node-based modeling and look at unique modeling tools like splines and forces. We'll cover different techniques for creating leaves, like the mesh generator, fronds, and custom mesh modeling in external applications. We'll also look at real-time brush sculpting and manual editing, different texturing techniques, using mesh forces and collections, and detailed plant animation with the wind generator. We'll then move on to create a complete environment shot where we'll use our plant models in a larger context. We'll work with View to model assets, Maya to light and render the scene, and then use NUKE to composite the passes, add atmospheric effects, and create the final look. In addition to all this, we'll also take a little time to explore the brand new plant factory from Eon Software and look at some of its powerful features and its integration with View. So I'm really excited about this course and this fascinating subject, and I hope to see you all this term.
Why study with FX PhD? Mike, I'm one of the other co-founders here with John. Well, the answer to that question for us is pretty simple. It's the structured nature of FX PhD and what it provides. It isn't just some download random videos. It's a structured course that plays out week by week with a professor there in the forums to help you. There's material to help generate your reel, help with the software, and the whole thing is developed in close partnership with the equipment suppliers, the software providers, and industry. In this case, between the Foundry and Sony Pictures Imageworks to bring you our first ever Katana course. Now, it's an incredibly exciting, very high-end lighting package that's really taking off in companies all over the world, and we're really proud to have Matt Leonard to bring you our first ever Katana course.
We'll start the course with a comprehensive overview of Katana, how it fits into the VFX pipeline, its history and user base, before looking at its node-based workflow for lighting and look development. From there, we'll move on to a mini project where in a single week we'll work through the whole of Katana, from importing geometry, adding lights and cameras, setting up and assigning materials, and finally rendering the shot. Having now got a comprehensive overview of Katana, we'll start padding out our knowledge in specific areas: how to prepare assets in 3D, building and assigning materials for look development, working with both standard lights and high dynamic range lighting, setting up render passes and combining them in NUKE 7, and finally working with Katana's many editors. This is going to be a fantastic course looking at one of the most exciting and eagerly awaited VFX tools in recent years.
Here at PhD, we tend to classify our courses in two sort of main ways. One are the Vault courses. These are things that have run before but are available because they're so valuable for immediate download. You can get all 10 classes at once. And then you have the main body of courses, the ones that are structured, that roll out week after week, which actually have a professor sitting there in the forums who can answer questions and interact with you. Now, for those courses, and there are a lot of them, we tend to, in this video, highlight the new classes. But I don't want you to think that the courses that we're showing you are the only courses on our offer. In fact, we have hundreds of courses on offer. But this video focuses primarily on the new courses. And sometimes those new courses are ones that are just being refreshed because new versions of the software have come out. And that's particularly the case with this 100-level NUKE course by Tal Naran.
Hi, my name is Tal Naran. In NUKE 104, Introduction to NUKE, I'm going to be taking you through the basics of the application which has taken over the world of compositing in feature film, games, television, and pretty much all areas of visual effects and CG compositing. We're going to be going through the basics of NUKE, including topics such as linear compositing, roto and paint, layering, compositing, CG, keying, working with live action, tracking, dealing with multipasses, and much, much more, as well as getting a deep understanding of how the application itself works. Getting an understanding of all the new features in this latest release, which is really fantastic. Things like planar tracking, roto, paint, improvements to the existing CG compositing workflow, a host of different keyers for producing green screen composites from material of a variety of sources, and also using the fantastic new features such as the Supervisor tracking feature in NUKE 7, an introduction to working with multipass images, and various workflows for dealing with 3D geometry, 3D passes, and 3D cameras within your application.
Hi, I'm Matt Leonard.
And I'm Ben Greasley.
Together this term, we're going to be bringing you a course that blends NUKE 7's new features with Luxology's Modo.
We will be using Modo for all of the 3D, including modeling, animation, dynamics, shading, lighting, cameras, and rendering.
We're packing the term down into 4 main projects.
The first one looks at dynamics inside of Modo, which will export out as an Alembic cache, then texture light and render it inside of NUKE 7.
The next project looks at creating a visual effects shot based around a background play of the Brooklyn Bridge.
The third project is focusing on Modo's multipass output capabilities and how to accurately recombine them in NUKE. as well as using the various AOV outputs.
Our final project will encompass both cleanup and set extension techniques to create our final shot.
We'll be going deep into Modo and covering nearly 24 new features in Nuke 7.
Both Ben and I look forward to having you on the course and chatting in the forums.
We have a great curriculum of Cinema 4D courses here at FX PhD, and they're led by Professor Tim Clapham. He's really done some outstanding work for us in the past and truly is one of our members' favorite profs.
This course is essentially a companion course to the Cinema 4D 103, Introduction to Cinema 4D Release 14, Part 1 that currently exists. So this is Part 2, and we expand upon the foundation that we built in 103. And it's an ideal course for those of you that have already taken C4D 103 or would like to take that. But it's also a great course for those of you that have been working with Cinema 4D Prime and would like to learn more about the extra feature set that's included with Cinema 4D Visualize, Broadcast, and Studio. And we'll be looking at working with the hair object, applying hair to our various objects, and of course working with the hair material so that we can create lots of different looks and types of hair. And we'll be looking at methods that may seem fairly obvious, and we'll also be looking at a few alternative techniques that you can use with hair. So, of course, we'll not only be looking at how we can add hair and create hair materials, we'll also be working with animation and dynamics. And we'll be looking at other elements of rendering, specifically texturing, and we'll be working with Body Paint 3D. We'll be looking at how we can manipulate our UVs, lay out our UVs for painting, and then we'll be working with Body Paint 3D and painting a few textures. And it's got some pretty unique features, such as painting in multiple channels of your material, such as color, bump, luminance, all at the same time with a multi-channel brush. So as you can see, it's a fairly feature-packed term. It should be a lot of fun, and I hope to see many of you on the forums.
And joining us this term is my good friend, DOP Ben Allen. So what are we doing this term?
Well, Mike, we're going to look at lighting people, products, and cars.
But not just actually lighting them, though we will be doing that, but also how that translates into a CG world. Because in this world of increasingly physically plausible shaders, physically plausible lighting, lights in the computer tend to work like they do in the studio. So wouldn't it be good to know what all those lights are called? But more than that, some of the tips and techniques that a real DOP uses for lighting these things. And I think it's an exciting time.
It is absolutely an exciting time where we're getting that commonality of tools and techniques between the CG world and the real world.
Yeah, and Ben's going to do some amazing stuff like, for example, we'll light a car, but in the computer. So Ben will actually direct a CG artist doing that, which I think would be really exciting. And we'll get out and about a bit.
Yep, and look at working with natural light as well as artificial light.
So it should be a really good course. We hope you'll join us.
We've got a new professor, Arthur Herr, who's going to take a look at kind of the best tool for the job. He's going to be doing some cool motion graphics design projects using a variety of applications, from After Effects and to NUKE and more. Let's hear from him what he's got planned for the course.
One of the things that really interests me about our industry is this kind of interplay between design and visual effects. And I feel like that line between the two spheres is really being blurred these days. You may take some of these shots and break them out just to illustrate various principles and techniques and things, but what I'm really interested in doing is creating something from scratch. We would create a piece of concept design and bring it into full animation, utilizing various pieces of software. Photoshop, Illustrator will be compositing and animating in both NUKE and in After Effects. And as far as 3D is concerned, we'll use some Cinema 4D, a little bit of Maya, and we'll navigate the various workflow issues going back and forth between all the different programs.
So this term we have a 300-level course, which is one of the most advanced courses we offer, by Charles Poynton. Now, Charles is returning, and he's a great guy. I was involved in some of his earlier courses, incredibly experienced colour scientist. And he's going to be teaching Advanced Colour Theory and Workflow, DCT 302. So digital cameras today are commonplace, and some of them work with a CPD natively, like the ARRI log C file. Still others really come from an HD background, so they're working for an HD video kind of pipeline as an assumption of how they should be working. And even others are kind of hybrids because they're log-based, so you've got Panalog, SI log, Red log. So in this kind of mix of different formats, you've got DI houses and VFX houses trying to deal with and integrate all of these different sort of footages together into one cohesive model. To help with that, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences decided to standardise an overall workflow that would incorporate all these different formats, kind of even things out. It's called ACES, and it's designed to acquire and process all the imagery in what's called scene linear, which is to say that it's closely coupled to the original scene exposure. And this is being deployed commercially around the world right now. It's being rolled out in heaps of packages. And even if you're not strictly adopting an ACES colour workflow right now, the whole ACES colour space and the various transforms in and out of it are really important concepts to get your head around. In this course, Charles will be discussing a lot of the technical and visual requirements for getting the most out of any of these sorts of cameras. The processing, how to take it into ACES, how to deal with scene linear, also some of the technical parameters of the cameras themselves, for example, their encoding, their dynamic range, the noise properties, for example, of different cameras, all with this eye to having a sort of more unified and simpler and I guess more comprehensive overall workflow. Well, we're not stopping there. We're trying to do something really innovative this term with Charles because so many of these problems are kind of unique to each of you. You know, your problems maybe aren't the same as anybody else's, and it's sort of hard to get a handle on this. So we thought, why not produce the classes as webinars? So each week for the first half of the term, what we're going to do is run the classes not as a normal download, though they will be available as a normal download, but as an actual live session that you can log into. So if you're able to make it, you can ask Charles questions live, you can interact and have your questions and your individual problems addressed. Now, if you can't make it because of whatever reason or time zones, these will be recorded and available the next day as a download, just like normal. But we thought for the first half of the term, let's trial this system where we can hear directly from you and try and answer your questions. And because this is a high-level course, we figured there are going to be some pretty interesting technical problems to be solved.
With Houdini 206 FX3D Fundamentals, we're going to dig deep into the fundamental principles of Houdini. One of the core skills of a TD is to solve problems. And it doesn't really matter if it's a creative or a technical problem. In Houdini, it all starts with having a clear understanding of what's going on under the hood. By using visual examples, I will discuss the essential building blocks like attributes, expressions, and volumes. We'll go deep into VOPs to build our own geometry or subnodes with point cloud lookups, while loops, and matrices. I hope you will join me in this FX3D adventure to gain a skill that will serve you well. How to solve problems using Houdini.
Hey everybody, I am Peter and I'm really happy to be back with FX PhD. In this latest class, of course, we're going to be doing photorealism. So we're going to take this guy, this helicopter, and turning it photoreal. And that means taking HDR images, putting them together, making sure they're leveled with our plates, tracking it in there, start working with small things like displacements and bumps to get the whole thing feeling real, and then moving into reflections and diffuse mapping and all those little details that's going to make this shot look like it's a shot helicopter. And when we're done with all that, we're going to take it even further and go out and shoot whatever little arbitrary plates we need. Take a GoPro camera and shoot elements we can comp in there. We're going to clean up the plate and we'll basically do everything that takes it from awesome to being photoreal. So it's going to be a really cool class, and I'm so looking forward to going through all this stuff with you guys. So I'm hoping to see you guys in the class, and it's going to be a blast.
At the end of last year, Autodesk introduced dramatically revised versions of their Flame and Smoke Advanced products for Linux. Here at FX PhD, we had some getting up to speed in the new Flame Premium training, but frankly, it had a huge impact on Smoke as well. So this term, we have a brand new offering being taught by Brian Mulligan, which is targeted towards existing Smoke users, helping them get the most out of the new software.
Now, I've been using this release in beta for a couple of months now. So it's my goal in this course to get you up to speed with the latest workflows and new features so that you can concentrate on getting back into editing and effects and not worried about what button went where. In this course, we use a 30-second promo spot I cut and affected on Smoke as the basis for learning the new workflows, as well as show you the pitfalls. A project-based course will allow us to explore the new workflows in a real-world situation, which is the best way to see how the 2013 Extension 2 release performs. We will explore the VFX CFX workflow and batch as a new tool for Smoke Advanced. Clip integration with VFX is vastly improved. It really makes this a solid tool. I can't wait to show you some of the new features there. At the end of this course, we'll have some fun by going over 3D object texturing and lighting inside of action, along with shadows and depth of field. Smoke doesn't have all the cool maps that Flame has, but by maximizing what you have, Smoke can still do some amazing things.
Well, thanks, Brian. And my contribution to the course this term is 2 classes. I'm going to be teaching a bit on conform tools, the new XML and EDL workflow, and another class based around color management, which really is a substantial step forward in the software. Now, this course is targeted towards Smoke editors, but really, if you're a Flame artist or maybe you're picking up Smoke on Mac for the first time, I really think you'll get a lot out of the course. In addition to this new offering, we also are repeating the Flame and Smoke Masters course, which is really fantastic. We have some great real-world breakdowns from some spec projects, as well as the behind-the-scenes work that was done in the Star Trek Next Generation remastering for the new Blu-ray DVD release.
A lot of the courses at PhD are very application-specific, of course, but we always thought that there was a bunch of other stuff that'd be great to know, stuff that's sort of beneath the application or just sort of general information, background if you like, that would really help you with pitching for a job or tackling a new concept, being able to deploy the latest techniques even if you yourself haven't had a chance to use them yet. And so since term 1 we've had a thing called Background Fundamentals. Now this is a free course effectively, though we don't call it a course because it doesn't count to any of your downloads. This is just a weekly magazine-style show where we'll show you some of the latest techniques, explain algorithms, go behind some of the tech and hopefully show you some new stuff you've not seen before. Background Fundamentals, keep an eye out for it. It's in your download section and it's certainly been one of the more popular aspects of PhD since we started.
We've covered a lot of the great courses we have on offer this term at FX PhD, but one of the best things about membership are the bonus extras. Now, Mike covered Background Fundamentals earlier in this video, which truly is fantastic. We also have great things like forums. We have individual course forums. We can post questions for the prof or other members. There's really lively discussions. You can even share work in progress that you've done as part of that course. The great thing is that since everyone's paying to be part of the forums, there's really a low signal-to-noise ratio. You know, there's no flame wars and really high-quality discussions. In addition to the forums, we have a fantastic selection of VPN software. New this term is SpeedTree, but we also have favorites such as NUKE, Mari, Maya, Houdini, Cinema4D, and more. It's really one of the great things about FX PhD membership, that ability to use the software when you're following along with the classes. Last term at FX PhD, we made some changes in the website to allow you to get easier access to your class materials. First of all, we made a much simpler downloads page for the iPad, which gives you direct download access to your class movies. You can stream them directly from our site without torrent. We also introduced a new podcast feed, which is effectively a podcast of your class schedule that allows you to have your class movies automatically downloaded to an application like iTunes or something like Downcast on your iPad. It's a great way to stay up to date on the materials at FX PhD.
Well, that's it for this term's introductory O-Week video, our orientation video. We hope you've enjoyed it. I have to say, if you're not learning in this industry, if you're not moving forward, then you stand a serious risk of being left behind. And we have just loved the fact that through the terms that we've been doing here at FX PhD over the years, we've seen members come through and take their careers to the next level, which is why so many of you now work either running your own shops, producing your own material, or at some of the biggest studios throughout the world. On behalf of John, myself, and all the professors here at FX PhD, we hope we'll see you this term. See you.
Okay, we are way over time, but I have just one more thing. As part of our Oscar coverage, we have posted a free 85-page iBook in the iTunes Store on The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, in partnership with Weta Digital and Warner Brothers. This is our holiday present to you, and it's free and available in most territories. There is a link on fxguide.com, so enjoy it. And until next time, see ya. For more industry news, in-depth features, podcasts and forums, check out fxguide.com. And for visual effects training, check out fxphd.com.